Welcome to the Big Picture Retirement Show, where you'll learn what it really takes to have a successful retirement. With over 20 years of experience, your host, Rick Rivera of Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, has seen it all and is here to help you achieve your retirement dreams. This is the Big Picture Retirement Show.
Welcome into the Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera of Safeguard Investment Advisory Group. I'm Mark Elliott. Glad you're with us today. Rick, of course, is a partner at Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, over 20 years experience in the financial industry. You can always find out more about Rick, Reed, Eddie, the team at Safeguard. It's safeguardinvestment.com, safeguardinvestment.com. And of course, we always give you the number if you have questions. Boy, I wonder if I've got enough. I think I do, but I don't really know. Why wouldn't you want to find out? Can I retire? Well, when can I retire? Will my money last as long as, as I need it to, or as long as we need it to? 800-700-1980 is the number. 800-700-1980, totally complimentary, no cost to you. I think it's one of the more important phone calls you can make, and it's going to give you a lot of information. Whether you become a client of Safeguard Investment Advisory Group is to be determined, but if Rick can help you in any way, he will. Again, that number is 800-700-1980. Rick, how are you?
Real good, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing really well, and we're going to talk about something. We touched on taxes a lot in the last year or so, because that's kind of been on people's mind. I think the 401ks, the IRAs, the traditional ones, when you get to that required minimum distribution age, which now is 73, but when you get there, you have to start pulling that money out, and it's never been taxed before. The government was pretty smart. They don't want your tax on the seed. They want the tax on the harvest. And if you've never done anything to try to alleviate some of those taxes, you could be looking at a big tax bill that you weren't expecting. So we're going to touch on that today on the program. We're going to talk about the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. I think a lot of people call it the Trump tax laws, if you will. But Rick, that law, when it changed the taxes, it changed corporate taxes from 35 to 21%. There was no end date on that. But for families and individuals, that 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, it expires, December 31st, 2025. So we've got like a year and a half to take advantage of lower taxes, kind of what we think. How do you see it?
Oh, no, absolutely. But this is something, quite frankly, Mark, we've been discussing with clients for years. We knew the second that the marginal rates dropped, we knew that there was a sunset clause in it. So, during that time, we leveraged the fact that we're in lower brackets in our clients' favors, whether it be Roth conversions, things of that strategy, maybe, mitigating taxes on RMDs and a variety of different scenarios. And we're always, whenever we're planning for clients and planning for their particular retirement planning and taxes, what we do is we plan for the worst case scenario. We always assume that, even though the sunset clause was going to happen, yeah, of course, Congress can, step in and maintain the current tax rates. But we assume, hey, you know what, there's a possibility that ain't going to happen and rates will bounce up. And we're going to have to, at that point, play the cards that we're dealt. The big challenge is for those clients that are, like you were saying earlier, RMD age, and now they're forced to take money out of their IRAs, 401ks, things of that nature, and they're forced to pay taxes on money that they don't need, and it throws them into a higher marginal tax bracket, also causes their Social Security to be taxed at a higher level. So if somebody's listening to the show right now and they haven't planned for this or just, been kind of doing things willy-nilly, it's a good idea to, sit down with somebody or give us a call. And maybe we can start sharing some strategies with you to help mitigate the taxes when you're forced to pull those RMDs out, and leverage whatever you can between now and, like you said, 2020, the end of 2025, or say 2026 is when we're really going to get hit with everything. But then, we got to think beyond that as well and play the cards that we're dealt.
So really, at the end of the day, it's about being proactive as opposed to reactive. And if you'd like to sit down with Rick and the team at Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, again, the number is 800-700-1980, 800-700-1980. And President Biden, he tweeted this recently, said Donald Trump was very proud of his $2 trillion tax cut that overwhelmingly benefited the wealthy and biggest corporations and exploded the federal debt. I don't know if a lot of people would really buy all of that, but he says the tax cut is going to expire, and if I am reelected, it's going to stay expired. Donald Trump has said if he wins, he's going to make the tax cuts permanent. Now, Trump can say a lot of things that sometimes aren't necessarily going to happen because he doesn't control Congress, unless his Republicans win that, I would assume, because then you have to go back through Congress who makes all the tax laws. But Biden says he's going to let it expire. Trump says he's going to try to keep it going. And I suppose you have to plan for both scenarios, don't you?
Yeah, the scenario here, again, like I was saying earlier, we plan for the worst case scenario. So let's just assume, when we're planning for clients, we say, hey, listen, let's assume rates don't drop. Let's just assume that rates will increase and continue to increase. Well, under that scenario, again, we got to play the cards that we're dealt. And what we do is we say, okay, where can we add efficiencies to help mitigate that? And especially when it comes to not only taxation on your Social Security and pensions and all the rest of it, but like we were saying earlier, when it comes to your IRAs, 401ks, TSPs, 403bs, we know at a certain age, at 73, you're forced to take that money out. Now, due to the new Secure Act 2.0, if your birth date is 1960 or later, those RMDs are 75. So we know there's an end date where that tax deferral is going to end and you're going to be forced to pull this money out. And we know they're going to get the taxes on that money no matter what. So the question is, do we start to mitigate it now as much as possible and set ourselves up so that way at 73, 75, whatever your RMD age is going to be, we've maybe minimized the amount of money we have in those IRAs, 401ks, and now have them in a position where now they're in a much more tax efficient account like a Roth IRA or some other account that is much more tax efficient. So that way going forward, because this account is tax free, you're now in the driver's seat. That bucket of money, not only are you not forced to pull it out at 73 or 75, but now that can continue to grow tax free beyond those ages. And if Congress or whoever decides to continue to raise rates, or even let's say they raise rates, but or maybe they don't raise rates, whatever they do. But what they do is they try to increase the amount that you have to pull out. So that's a different way of also raising tax rates, because the more they force you to pull out, the higher it's going to boost up your marginal. But if you have a Roth IRA, now you're not forced to pull that money out. So by starting to strategize now, you can actually put yourself in the driver's seat going forward. So if they start playing games, you're like, well, listen, that doesn't pertain to me. I already planned for it. So this is a key thing that a lot of our clients are truly implementing, trying to make sure that it works on all cylinders for them.
And that's really an interesting point you make about they could change the RMD percentages that you have to take out of those IRAs and traditional IRAs, traditional 401ks. Because there's so many things that are kind of moving targets that we don't really know about. I think it's one of the cool things about your job is you've done this for over 20 years. You've sat down with all kinds of people. You've heard all kinds of situations, some bad, some fantastic, right? And anywhere in between. But at the end of the day, you think about the Secure Act 1.0, it made a big difference, I think, in how you do your job for your clients when they said, hey, we're no longer going to let you do the stretch IRAs. You now have, when you pass it down, and not to a spouse, but when you pass it down to kids or heirs, they've got a 10-year window. You leave them $1 million, they got 10 years, they got to pay the taxes on that within that 10-year period. That's changed also, just the Secure Act. There's different ways they can get our money, I think.
Yeah. And, the big advantage, think about this. Okay. So, let's say somebody inherits an IRA. If they take all the money out at once, well, then, of course, they're going to pay all the tax at once. So what they did is in the past, like you were saying, we were able to do a stretch IRA where the beneficiary could stretch those payments out over their lifetime to help mitigate taxes. Now, of course, the advantage of doing a stretch IRA is that if for some reason, during that period where you're taking the minimal amount that you have to take out in order to mitigate tax, if somewhere down the road you have an emergency and you need to pull it all out or a bigger chunk out, you can always do that. But it's nice having the option to mitigate taxes. What they did is they reduced that down to 10 years. So now you got 10 years to pull that money out. And at the end of the 10th year, whatever money's left in that account, you now have to, you have one big balloon payment. You have to pull it all out and pay all the tax on whatever's left in that account. So when it comes to IRAs, obviously each and every year, we're going to want to strategize exactly based on the client's particular income tax bracket, how much they should be pulling out of there. And maybe there's a certain amount to keep you within a certain range. But when it comes to Roth IRAs, think about this. Imagine stretching that Roth out for 10 years tax-free and building that up. So you almost want to do the opposite with the Roth as you're doing with the IRA. So that needs to be structured a little bit differently. I want to take the bare minimum out of my Roth for those 10 years. And at the end of the 10 year, hopefully I do have a big balloon amount of money that the beneficiary can pull out on a tax-free basis. Where on the IRA, we want the smallest amount possible in that IRA after the 10th year. So 2 different strategies, 2 different ways of handling things. And this is where a professional can come in and help you with all that.
There's a lot of challenges in that, should you move money into the Roth world? Not everybody should. It makes sense for a lot of people. But that's how Rick and the team at Safeguard look at it. It's about whomever they're sitting down with. What is the best scenario for them, and how can we help you actually be in a better position, whether it's taxes, whether it's your investments. Hey, need a little bit more income. Where's it going to come from? How can we help? Healthcare, all those challenges you have as we get older. And one of the cool things also at Safeguard Investment Advisor Group, Rick and the team have put together a toolkit. It's got retirement guides in it. It's also got Reed Aberdeen doing a webinar at one of their events. It's about a 30-minute video. Talking about what Safeguard Investment Advisory Group does for their clients. If you would like that toolkit, the retirement guides plus the webinar by Reed, all you have to do is text the word toolkit to 951-667-4969. There's no cost to you. There's no obligation whatsoever. It's kind of a way for you to get maybe ahead of the game a little bit when it comes to your retirement. Text the word toolkit to 951-667-4969. That'll all be sent out to you. No cost, no obligation whatsoever. 951-667-4969. Just text the word toolkit to that number. More with Rick Rivera right here on the Big Picture Retirement Show right after this.
You're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera. For more information about Rick and the Safeguard Investment Advisory Group team, go to safeguardinvestment.com. While you're there, you can also download educational retirement guides and sign up for an upcoming seminar. That's safeguardinvestment.com. Now, back to the podcast.
Welcome back to the Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera. Rick, a partner at Safeguard Investment Advisory Group. I'm Mark Elliott. You have any questions? You have concerns? Maybe you're getting close to retirement. Maybe you're already retired and you're not really sure it's going the right way. You need a little guidance. There's no cost to sit down with the team at Safeguard. 800-700-1980. 800-700-1980. And Rick always says if you give him 45 minutes, he will give you 2 ideas that will enhance whatever it is you are currently doing. There's no cost. 800-700-1980. We're talking about the tax law, the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that expires on December 31st of 2025. And the theory is in 2026, we're going to go back to the 17 rates and brackets. So the brackets get less money to get into the higher brackets. The brackets are tighter together. So your taxes, you go, well, I went from 12 to 15%. That's 3%. It's really not. It's more than that. Sometimes it could be a 15% tax increase, could be a 30% tax increase. Kind of depends on your situation. When you talk to new clients, Rick, and you do so all the time, do they typically have a good handle on the impact that taxes can have on retirement? I would think, being a baby boomer myself, is that I would say, well, wait, Rick, the old adage was when I retire, my taxes are going down. In today's retirement world, that's not necessarily the case.
You're absolutely right. Most of the people that do come in to see us, actually, that's one of the biggest questions is they don't have a handle on taxes, and sometimes they're, in a situation where they'll even, maybe they think they do, but they come in to see us. They're like, listen, Rick, after listening to the radio show or coming to one of your seminars, workshops, and hearing what you guys have to say, and the fact that you guys specialize in retirement planning, they're like, listen, I don't know what I don't know. And a lot of times people will come to us to get a second opinion to see if there's anything that's being missed, to see if there's any strategies that they could potentially be taking advantage of that they're not implementing now. And we give them a second opinion, and taxes are huge because let's face it, whatever money you can save in taxes is a direct result of how much income you're going to have in your pocket each and every year. And the challenge here is that with a lot of brokers out there, or I'll just say at least with some anyway, so many brokers and advisors out there are so busy chasing return in the market that they're actually reaching over the dollars to pick up the pennies. Now, of course, everybody wants great returns. I got that. But no broker or advisor is going to be able to guarantee you exactly how the stock market's going to perform next year, or exactly what, interest rates are going to be, and, all these different things. So what I mean by, hey, they're reaching over the dollars to pick up the pennies, if we can save a client 10 or 15% in taxes, how easy is to make that same 10 or 15% in the market? So by controlling the things that we can control, which are taxes, we can control fees. The list goes on of the things that we can actually control in order to put the client much further ahead. Now, of course, getting a good return in the market's important, but we can't lose sight at looking at these things from that big picture, holistic approach. And yes, taxes is huge when it comes to retirement planning, because any money that you pull out of your IRA, and I want to make sure that people understand this clearly, not only does it add to your marginal bracket, but whatever you pull out of your IRA or 401k will have and can have a direct impact on how much your Social Security is taxed as well. So now that Uncle Sam is forcing you to pull money out of that account, and each year the percentage keeps going up and up that he requires you to pull out, but whatever he has you pull out now has a direct impact on how much of your Social Security gets reported on the return. So it's almost like a double whammy. And how many people listening to the show right now didn't even know that whatever you're pulling out of your 401k or IRA has a direct impact on their Social Security?
Doesn't it also have an impact on Medicare Premium Part B?
Absolutely. And that was another thing I was going to bring up. Depending on how much you're pulling out, there's different thresholds where now not only is your Social Security being taxed more, and like you said, Mark, that's great. I'm glad you brought that up. Now you have the IRMAA situation where now if your income goes over a certain level, now your Medicare health insurance premiums go up as well. So it's literally like a snowball effect. So why not sit down with somebody that specializes in this area and make sure that if you're approaching RMD age, hey, maybe I should sit down with somebody to make sure that I don't get hit by any surprises. And the point that I want to make is that the earlier you start this planning, the better off you're going to be. So if you just retired at 62 or 65, and let's say RMD age is, 8 years away or 10 years away or whatever it is, don't look at it like, you know what, I'll worry about it then. No, you need time as your leverage in order to maximize some of these strategies. The challenge that we have, unfortunately, is that sometimes people come to us at the last minute and they say, "Oh, Rick, I'm about to approach my RMD age, next year or 2 years from now. I want to start doing those Roth conversions, for example." And I'm like, "Well, you don't give us a lot of time here, because the challenge, here's the other thing I want people to realize. When it comes to your RMD, any money that they force you to pull out, even if you don't need it, that cannot go into a Roth. So let's just say you got $1 million in your IRA. Uncle Sam says, hey, listen, you need to pull out $38,000. And you're like, well, Rick, I don't need that money. So let's just pay the taxes and throw the difference into the Roth. Well, unfortunately, once you become RMD age, that money cannot go into a Roth. So if we want to put $5,000 in the Roth, I got to pull out over $40,000 just to put $5,000 in. That I lose my tax efficiencies. So where we get all our efficiencies is prior to RMD age. So that's why I'm saying that, and there's other strategies that work very similar to that. So that's why the earlier you do your planning, you're going to be in a much better position.
So you think what you don't know, you don't know. I think we all get that, right? What we don't know, we don't know. But you have an opportunity to know, to make an educated decision based on information that is about you and your situation. You have that opportunity just by calling Rick and the team at Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, 800-700-1980, 800-700-1980. And when you talk to people about, converting some of their IRA or 401k into the Roth world, it's not right for everyone, but it does make great sense for a lot of folks. Maybe talk about how you kind of go about figuring that. We got about 3 minutes left.
Well, basically what we do is we'll sit down with the client, and you're right. Not every, client is a Roth conversion candidate, but let's find out. So what we do is we look at the income, we look at the expenses, we look at Social Security, we're going to look at the pensions, we're going to look at what your RMDs are going to be at RMD age, whether yours is 73 or 75. And what we'll even do for the client is we'll even run a mock tax return. And we'll show you, hey, listen, if you do nothing, here's what your taxes are going to look like at this point, whether it's now or down the road when you're forced to take those RMDs out. Here's what they're roughly going to look like. If we make some adjustments and we do these conversions, and we'll be able to tell you what the sweet spot is, because at the same time, somebody might be listening to the show, well, why don't I just convert all my IRA and 401k all at once? Well, obviously, we don't want to convert too much in 1 year, because then we'll be pushing ourselves in too high of a marginal tax bracket, and we don't want to cut off our nose to spite our face either. So we can run a calculation showing you, hey, for you, based on your particular scenario, here's the sweet spot of what we can convert each and every year. And now when you become RMD age, here is how the numbers are going to look. So we can give you do nothing plan, or here's if we create something, here's how it's going to work in your situation, and you'll see it in black and white.
And this is not something that you're saying, well, once we hit the end of 2025 and the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, expires, and now we go back to the 17 tax rates. You're not saying, well, at that point, there's nothing we can do. It's still, time's running out for the tax code now, but that doesn't mean that time is running out for you when you're 8 years away from RMDs, for example, right?
No, absolutely not. We've been doing conversions for years and years and years. So regardless of what the government throws at us, we're going to play the cards that we're dealt, and we're going to work that as efficiently as possible. So if you're listening to a show right now and you're like, listen, you know what? I'd like to see what my possibilities are. I don't want to be caught by surprise. I don't know what I don't know. Give us a call, 800-700-1980, and I'll be happy to give you an hour free consultation. You leave your checkbooks and all that behind. I guarantee you, like Mark said earlier, I've been doing this long enough that within 45 minutes, within that hour, I'll be able to give you 2 ideas that'll enhance whatever it is that you're currently doing.
So again, you want to sit down and have a conversation with Rick and the team at Safeguard Investment Advisor Group. It is 800-700-1980. Totally complimentary, no cost to you. It's why I think it's one of the more important phone calls you can make. We're talking about your future, and I think you've got half an hour to an hour of time to spend on the next 20, 30 years of your life to getting more information. 800-700-1980. Rick, appreciate the time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll get together again next weekend.
Appreciate it so much, Mark.
Firm offers insurance services. Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC is a registered investment advisory firm. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC.